Hello, welcome to The World This Week with me, Anthony Baxter. A look at some of the biggest global news stories for an international city, brought to you by the London Live News team. Tonight, tragedy in Brazil. 10 die as a cliff collapses onto boaters below following days of torrential rain. Firefighters struggle to control a blaze in Chile that ripped through an impoverished neighbourhood who had their water supply cut off. And an American man becomes the first in history to get a heart transplant from a pig in what's being heralded as a promising stride forward for science. All of that to come before 7:30, but first, the ball was very much not in his court this week. Serbian tennis star Novak Djokovic had his Australian visa removed for the second time as his fight to stay in the country unvaccinated continues. The world #1 men's player is hoping to win his 10th Australian Open. However, Alex Hawke, the country's immigration minister, made the decision yesterday, and Djokovic now faces deportation. The very public visa debate has frustrated locals.
I think that Novak Djokovic has been playing a game with the Australian public and with the legal authorities throughout the world. It's not just us he's fiddling around with and tricking. It's his own government. It's the government of Spain, obviously. He's an anti-vaxxer who doesn't have the nerve or constitution to come out and say he's an anti-vaxxer. I have no time for him at all.
Personally, I think he should be held accountable if the documentation wasn't done right, whether by him or by his management. I'm personally a Federer fan, so even though he's not playing, any title we can take away from him, the better.
Well, Djokovic was temporarily barred entry last week because of his vaccination status. He was held in a detention hotel in Melbourne for 5 days whilst he challenged the deportation order after saying his COVID infection mid-December met the conditions for allowing foreigners to enter Australia. It was the move he and his family had feared.
I have to say this is the most difficult time for us because we never have, even in my worst dreams, that is going to happen something like this, like when I was watching this court and I was sitting with my husband during the night and watching that, and I said, is this real? Is this like I'm watching some movie or something? Because I cannot even accept it, something like that they are judging to my son. So honestly, for a few days, a couple of days, we are not even sleeping, so we are really tired and we are trying to do our best, what we can do to spread the world what is going on.
Well, this might not be the end of it. Djokovic could still launch a second legal challenge, but if unsuccessful, he could get a 3-year ban on getting another Aussie visa. Right, let's head to Brazil next, where the southeast of the country has been pummeled by torrential rainfall this week, causing devastating flooding and landslides. As we can see here, this aerial footage from the Minas Gerais state is one of the areas worst affected. Landslides have killed at least 24 people and around 17,000 have been forced to leave their homes.
There are no conditions to live in my house today.
Well, meteorologists have said it is a phenomenon, but that climate change will be playing a role in the extreme weather events. Parts of the country have had 24 centimetres of rain in 72 hours. Now, to understand the scale of the rainfall, the average for the entire month of January is usually just 33 centimetres. The excessive rain also caused havoc and tragedy at a popular local tourist spot in the area. And just a warning, the footage we are about to show, some viewers may find this upsetting and disturbing. 10 people were tragically killed and another 32 injured after part of a cliff collapsed onto a group of boaters on the Furnace Lake. They were hit by a column of rocks, causing at least one of the boats to sink. Now to the UK, where one of the most high-profile legal battles in recent years continues. Prince Andrew is now very likely to face a civil sexual assault trial after a judge in America ruled that the case could continue. That's after his lawyers tried to have it dismissed. The Duke of York is being sued by Virginia Giuffre, who claims she was sexually assaulted by him in 2001, a claim that he has consistently denied. . for Ms Giuffre has said that a money settlement alone will not be enough and that she wants this resolved in a way that vindicates her and the other victims. The trial is due to take place later this year between September and December. However, the Prince still has a number of options to appeal the case. And with approval from the Queen, the Duke of York's military titles and royal patronages were removed this week. He will no longer also be able to use His Royal Highness. To South America now, where a fire ripped through the Chilean city of Iquique, destroying around 100 homes. How it started, still unknown, but firefighters said that the narrow passages between the houses meant fire trucks could not get close, making it very difficult to control. Heading in on foot, officials struggled to control the blaze as the neighbourhood's water supply had been cut off. They eventually managed to put out the flames using their own private water trucks.
Many of the cistern trucks that are supporting us do not have the connection used by firefighters, a stores connection. It has been quite difficult to supply us, but we overcame the situation we're in.
Well, luckily, no one was hurt in the fire, but residents have said they are determined to stay in the neighbourhood despite authorities attempting to try and kick them out.
Because they have always wanted to evict us from here, but now I'm more decided to stay here until I get my house back. They need to build my house just right here because I lost all my things, and that's their fault because the only thing they want is to take us away from here. Don't come over here because I will be here. The Altiplano municipality cut off the water today at 8 in the morning. It was all coming.
Let's move to Nigeria next, where they are one step closer to solving an ongoing dispute with Twitter after months of it being blocked. The social media company has agreed to register in the country and appoint a designated representative. It comes after Twitter deleted a post from their president. Well, the government then suspended the platform, accusing it of taking sides. The 7-month ban is due to come to an end, with Twitter agreeing to pay local taxes and to a number of other government demands. Right, back here now, and the country is preparing to celebrate the Queen's 70th year as monarch this year. There will even be a special 4-day bank holiday to mark the Queen's jubilee in June. Let's take a look at what else has been planned. Well, street parties and a concert with a lineup still to be revealed on the cards, and a chance to see inside the Queen's homes like we've not seen before, up close and personal. A competition to invent a new pudding to celebrate her 70 years on the throne already underway. The winning recipe will be shared so people can make it themselves and enjoy it over that special 4-day bank holiday weekend. Well, there will be several months of celebrations this year for the Queen. She'll also be marking her 96th birthday in April. The World This Week continues after the break. We'll be staying in the UK. We'll be looking at the fallout from revelations the Prime Minister went to a party while the country was in its first lockdown. His apology and calls from politicians and angered Brits for him to resign. Hello, welcome back. Now, the Prime Minister is facing criticism and calls to resign after it emerged he went to a party when the country was in lockdown for the first time in 2020. Let's take a look at that moment in Parliament when he issued an apology.
Mr. Speaker, I want to apologise. I know that millions of people across this country have made extraordinary sacrifices over the last 18 months. I know the anguish that they have been through, unable to mourn their relatives, unable to live their lives as they want or to do the things they love. And I know the rage they feel with me and with the government I lead when they think that in Downing Street itself the rules are not being properly followed by the people who make the rules. And though I cannot anticipate the conclusions of the current inquiry, I have learned enough to know that there were things we simply did not get right. And I must take responsibility.
Well, Boris Johnson denies that he broke any official rules at the time. However, he didn't convince the leader of the opposition, Sir Keir Starmer, who rejected his version of events and called for the Prime Minister to quit.
After months of deceit and deception, the pathetic spectacle of a man who's run out of road. His defence that he didn't realise he was at a party. It is so ridiculous that it's actually offensive to the British public. He's finally been forced to admit what everyone knew, that when the whole country was locked down, he was hosting boozy parties in Downing Street. Yes. Is he now going to do the decent thing and resign?
As well as uproar from inside Parliament, the Prime Minister's actions have been met with anger from the public. Let's just hear from one Londoner who lost her dad during the first lockdown.
Because each time it takes you back to that grief, that lonely lockdown, those funerals that weren't even funerals. I mean, my dad's funeral, the vicar told us, I'm really sorry, but it's 20 minutes tops. It's outside. There are 10 of you, and you have to stand socially distanced. You can't touch your dad's coffin. You have to watch him being lowered into the ground in the rain. Boris Johnson said he spent 25 minutes at that party. He got 5 minutes more to socialise and bring his own booze than I did for my dad's funeral.
Well, in response, an investigation into this gathering and other suspected parties in Downing Street has been launched. The results of the probe expected in the next week or so. Right, to New York in America next, where a deadly fire ripped through a tower block in the Bronx, killing 17. 8 of those were children. Just a warning, some of the images and videos we're about to show, well, viewers may find them upsetting. They may be sensitive to them. Officials have confirmed a malfunctioning electric heater started the fire in the 19th-storey building last Sunday morning. From the outside, the damage looks minimal, but fire officials explain that deadly smoke poured out of the 15th-floor apartment where the fire started and into the narrow stairwell, the only way to escape the building. Let's just hear from some survivors who recalled the frantic moments before they escaped.
I was making my breakfast and the smoke started coming out the door. And my brother said, "What are you burning up?" I said, "I'm not burning up anything." The smoke was so terrible coming out of the door. I called 911 3 times. They told us to put towels. I couldn't get to the door to put the towels.
So you always complain about smell. He said, "No, something burning." So when I open the door, the hallway, I cannot even see where I'm going. So I closed the door back to go and grab my wife, and we started walking down from the 4th floor all the way to the last floor in the darkness with the smoke.
Well, some of the survivors have filed a lawsuit to the value of more than $3 billion against the owners of the building, claiming they've neglected vital safety measures for years. They've yet to respond to these claims. At a vigil, the New York Attorney General, Letitia James, promised a thorough investigation.
We will have discussions with respect to policy at a later point. There will be conversations with respect to investigations at a later point. But I will also use the law both as a sword and as a shield, and get to the bottom of this fire, this horrific fire. Because there's a lot of lessons to be learned here in the Bronx.
Community leaders have also come forward, saying many of the families feel abandoned, and agencies in New York need to step up and provide aid for the victims. It comes as the neighbourhood has come together to support those affected.
Baby clothes, baby food, books, jackets, sneakers, whatever I can. Just giving out whatever I can. Nothing serious. Nothing, I can't do much, but what I have.
Staying in America, Joe Biden has received both criticism and support for a passionate speech he gave calling for an overhaul of the US election system. Let's just remind you of that moment this week.
Sadly, the United States Senate, designed to be the world's greatest deliberative body, has been rendered a shell of its former self. It gives me no satisfaction in saying that, as an institutionalist, as a man who was honored to serve in the Senate. But as an institutionalist, I believe that the threat to our democracy is so grave that we must find a way to pass these voting rights bills. Debate them, vote, let the majority prevail. And if that bare minimum is blocked, we have no option but to change the Senate rules, including getting rid of the filibuster for this.
Well, the President showing his support there for a plan to change the filibuster rule, a tactic used by the Senate minority to extend debate on a bill and prevent it from coming to a vote. Barack Obama has supported Mr. Biden and said it is a way for the Senate minority to block important progress on issues supported by the majority of voters. However, the Republican Mitch McConnell has called the president's speech incoherent and unpresidential. Currently, a majority of 60% is needed to pass most legislation in the Senate. Now, the upper Congress is currently split 50-50 between the two parties, making it hard for Mr. Biden's election bills to be passed unless there is a change to that rule. Senate Democrats plan to vote and come to a decision by Monday. Let's move further north now to Canada, where the province of Quebec has taken a stance to financially penalise those who are not vaccinated against COVID-19. The state premier announced residents will be charged a health tax, saying the amount will be significant as the province looks to salvage its crumbling healthcare system. Well, Quebec is struggling with a surge in cases, with over a third of those in hospital unvaccinated. Their daily death toll this month matching what it was in 2021 before a vaccination plan had even been rolled out. Well, the penalty will affect nearly 13% of residents, and a timeline for when it will start not yet announced. Well, Quebec is the only place in the world introducing this kind of tough penalty for those who don't want to get the jab. Greece has introduced a €100 fine for anyone unvaccinated over the age of 60. And if you have COVID in Singapore and don't have the vaccine, well, you've got to cover your own medical bills. Right, let's move to Cambodia and a story of a heroic rat who has sadly died. The mine-detecting rodent received a prestigious award for his contribution to saving lives by sniffing out landmines and tuberculosis. Well, his name is Magawa. Here he is. He's an African giant pouch rat who was born in Tanzania in 2013. He then moved over to Cambodia in 2016. The charity who own him have said he detected more than 100 landmines and other explosives during his 5 years in service. This specific type of rat used for this kind of work because they are small, light enough to walk over the mines without triggering them. There we go, Magawi, who has sadly passed away. Now, medics in Maryland in the US made history this week when they transplanted a genetically modified pig heart into a human patient. Well, the heart was engineered so the organ could survive in a human body. David Bennett, a 57-year-old from Baltimore, was the recipient. He is said to be the first person in the world to have this kind of surgery. And health officials in the UK also keeping a close eye on the procedure, hoping that one day it could allow more patients to benefit from transplants. In the US alone, 17 people a day die waiting for a suitable organ donor. Well, the surgery took place at the University of Maryland Medical Center in Baltimore and lasted 7 hours. 4 days on, David said to be doing well and is breathing on his own without a ventilator.
He's awake. He is recovering and speaking to his caregivers, and we hope that the recovery that he is having now will continue. I would like to say that we have a solid idea. Like in heart transplantation from a human, we can give you pretty solid statistics, right? And come within 1 or 2% of that for any individual. We've never done this in a human, and I like to think that we have given him a better option than what continuing his therapy would have been. But whether it's a day, week, month, year, I don't know.
Right, to Turkmenistan now, and to a phenomenon which has confused people since 1971. The leader of the country is asking for what's been called the gates of hell to be finally closed, or rather extinguished. It's also known as the Devasa gas crater. It's a large hole in the desert around 70 metres wide, which has been burning flames for at least 50 years. A Soviet drilling operation was carried out in the desert to extract gas, but the ground beneath the rig collapsed, creating this large hole. Scientists at the time suggested setting the crater to prevent the spread of the gas, thinking, well, it would only last for a few days. However, years on, it's still going. The president has now said it needs to be extinguished for good, really, because it's causing environmental damage and affecting people's health who live nearby. To Russia next, where temperatures are as low as -20 at the moment, which makes this next story even more unbelievable. A newborn baby, still with the umbilical cord wrapped around her, was found on the side of a road under a blanket in the far east region of Novosibirsk. A group of local boys heard cries coming from an egg box.
Somebody was crying and screaming. We thought maybe someone abandoned some puppies, and only after approaching we realised. We thought it was puppies, but after shining a flashlight on it, we saw it was a baby.
Well, the baby said to be doing well, recovering in a local children's hospital. What happened in the lead up to this still unknown. An investigation is underway. Police are looking for the baby girl's parents. However, if they're unable to find her, a Russian couple have already been asked to see if they would adopt her. Right, that's all from the world this week with me, Anthony Baxter. We'll see you at 7 next Saturday as we continue to round up the biggest international stories for a global city. Take care.